Hello everybody, welcome to this video. This time we're going to be taking a look at the spears in Dark Souls 2. Spears are a very good class to use with a shield, as you can do attacks from behind the shield. Also, most of the spear attacks are thrusting attacks, making them very good to pair with the Leo ring. This gives you a lot of damage early on, if you get the Ring of Blades as well. Now, some of the weaknesses of the spears is that they don't poise break very well. Anyways, let's get right into it and take a look at some of these weapons. So up first is the Pilgrim Spontoon. You get this in the Fire DLC, and the stats to wield are extremely high. This weapon requires 30 intelligence and 30 faith, and it acts like a staff, so it can cast hexes as well as sorcery. Now, even at these high requirements, this doesn't do more damage than some of the basic staffs in the game. You are probably better off using a staff in your offhand or as a secondary weapon, and using another spear that may do more damage than this thing. It does have counter damage at 130, which is standard for spears, so your spells would get counter damage as well. However, it wasn't doing as much damage, like I mentioned, as some staffs. When you have 30 int and 30 faith, you can use some really powerful staffs, so I don't know why you would use this thing instead of a staff. So yeah, let's go to the next one. Next up is the pike. This is a very long spear. This is one of 4 that is extremely long, if you don't count York spear. So the pike starts off doing very low base damage, as well as there are 2 other spears that behave very similar to the pike, but they just do more damage, that being Pate's Spear and the Stone Soldier Spear. This thing is quite heavy as well, it's heavier than both, weighing 8 units. And overall, I would just say don't use this thing. The Stone Soldier Spear is a lot better as a spear, and if you want the running attack of a lance, you can go for Pate's Spear instead. Yeah, nothing too special. There are weapons that behave pretty much exactly the same and they just do more damage. Let's go to the next one. So the next one is the Standard Spear. You can buy this from Lenigrast. This spear doesn't weigh too much, it doesn't do anything special, but it's a nice entry, a nice starting weapon, if spears are the ones you want to start off with. It has a little bit of a different moveset than just thrusting attacks. This weapon doesn't have only thrusting attacks. When you do the strong attack, you do a sweep, whether you're one-handed or you two-handed, which can make it useful for crowd control. I really like this attack, especially when you're two-handed, because the second strong attack comes out really quickly. This is also the case with another weapon on this list that is pretty much an upgrade to this one. However, this thing can be pretty decent, as you can get it really early and pair it with the Leo ring. I probably wouldn't recommend using chunks on it because, like I mentioned, there are especially 2 other spears in this class that come already upgraded, but we'll get into those. Let's go to the next. So the Spitfire Spear. This is a boss weapon. You get it from the Guardian Dragon Soul. This is one of 2 weapons that you can get from his soul. It is quite heavy at 10 units. Has decent durability, and it also has a special attack that shoots out flames. I believe you can power stance 2 of these, and you can do that special attack twice. However, it is a boss weapon, so you gotta be careful with the dragon bones. It does fire damage, which tends to be the weakest of the elements, and it also doesn't really do much more damage than some of the other spears on this list, especially considering the weight of it. But it is the spear that kind of does fire damage, if that is something that you want to use. The Stone Soldier Spear. This is pretty much an upgrade to the pike. Now, it doesn't have the running attack of a lance, but it does do significantly more damage for its weight. You get this from the Stone Soldiers in Drangleic Castle. And overall, it's pretty decent spear. It has very long range on it, like the pike. It also does more damage than the normal spear, but it doesn't have any sweeping attacks. You could say that that's better because you get a strong attack that can be paired with the Leo ring, and that's something worth considering. Anyways, this one can be pretty good because it upgrades with normal Titanite. So if you want a long spear that does some decent damage and you don't want to spend Twinkling Titanites upgrading Pate's Spear, the Stone Soldier Spear is a good alternative. So the Channeler's Trident. This thing, surprisingly enough, upgrades with normal Titanite. You get it from the Crows, Dina and Tillo. This is one of a couple of weapons that they can give to you. Now this thing does about the same amount of damage as the normal spear, but it has a special attack that hits, I believe, 4 times in total. This is very good to pair with poison and poison your enemies this way. Another cool thing that you can do with this weapon, when you're two-handed and you press the strong attack, you do a dance that buffs you and your allies for about 15 seconds. This is similar to a Bright Bug. It makes you do more damage, however, doesn't last very long, but it is a nice boost nonetheless. When you do this, it takes 10 durability away from the weapon and it only has 40. So this weapon is primarily used for either poisoning things or getting that buff. The next 4 weapons can be interchangeable depending on what you want to do with your build, 2 of which have elemental damages and 2 of which are physical damage, but they have slightly different movesets. So it really comes down to what you want to use and how you want to use them. So the Hade Spear. Like all of the Hade Knight weapons, this thing does lightning damage. It doesn't do incredible amounts of lightning damage, however. so maybe it's better to just leave it on infused. It weighs 8 units and has above average durability. This thing does start off doing some decent base damage, so if you don't have any upgraded spears, this one may be one of the ones that does more damage than the others. However, you cannot use a gold pine resin to buff this thing. You have to do it with a staff or a chime. And the moveset of this one has no sweeping attack, so it's pretty much just a thrust weapon. The stats to wield can be a little high though, at 25 dexterity. But yeah, this thing is not too bad. It upgrades with normal Titanite as well, which I always find really nice when weapons upgrade with normal Titanite. The other elemental weapon is the Silverback Spear. You get this from the enemies that wield it in Earthen Peak, and this is kind of like your Hex Spear. It has the moveset of the normal spear, meaning that it has a sweeping attack, but this thing has a little bit more range. It takes 8 intelligence and 8 faith, as well as 16 dexterity and 9 strength. So yeah, if you're a hexer and you want to use a spear, you can totally use this thing. Obviously, it can be paired with the Leo ring. It upgrades with normal Titanite, which is always nice as well, like I mentioned before. Anyways, let's take a look at the 2 physical weapons. So here we go, the Winged Spear. This is a pretty basic spear, has only thrusting attacks, but it does do some very, very good damage. Comparable to that of the Partisan, it actually does more than the Partisan at 50 strength and dex. Ultimately, the difference between them is the moveset. You can find both of them in the DLCs upgraded, so it kind of comes down to what kind of moveset you prefer. You can also find one of these in a wooden chest in the gutter that is infused with lightning. In the Ice DLC, you find this on a corpse. It's quite hard to miss. It's guarded by some dogs. And when it comes to the Partisan, you can find that one. In the Fire DLC, as you're making your way down to the Fume Knight, the Partisan kind of has a moveset similar to the normal spear, but it just does more damage as well as it has more range. The Partisan gets an S scaling in dexterity, however at 50 strength and 50 dex, the Winged Spear is doing slightly more damage at 404, while the Partisan is doing 396. So yeah, like I mentioned, it kind of comes down to what you want to use. Really, the only thing between these 2 weapons is the fact that they have a different moveset. I personally prefer the Partisan, although there are times where I find it very nice to have something like the Winged Spear's moveset, that you can do a strong attack that is a thrust, because it can be very easily paired with the Leo ring. Anyways, let's go to the next weapon. Up next is a boss weapon, the Dragon Slayer Spear. This thing upgrades with petrified dragon bones. It weighs 10 units, has 60 durability, and at 50 strength and dex, as well as 20 int and 20 faith, it does 489 damage. However, that is split damage. It does lightning. Not much more lightning actually than the Hate Knight Spear. Only 5 more points of lightning damage. If you are a faith build, this may be good for you. And this weapon's strong attack releases a lightning bolt that does extra damage if you manage to hit with the blade of the weapon as well as this thing. And yeah, this spear has very, very long reach. If you do hit with the special attack as well as the weapon, you can do some insane damage, as well as you can catch some people off guard as they're running away from you. This can of course be paired with the Leo ring as well. But yeah, pretty cool weapon. Looks really nice as well. Alright, so Pate's Spear. This thing can be pretty fun to use. It weighs 6 units and at 50 strength and dex, it has 409 damage, which is more than the Partisan and the Winged Spear. However, this thing has a little bit of a different moveset. When you one-handed or you two-handed, you get a Lance's running attack. This has kind of the range of the Pike and the Stone Soldier Spear. And you can pair this thing with the Stone Ring if you want to stagger enemies with the running attack. A really good thing to use with this weapon can be the Engraved Gauntlets, as you have a chance of getting a critical with the Engraved Gauntlets and the running attack. It doesn't weigh too much, which is pretty good. Upgrades with Twinkling Titanite. However, Pate's Spear kind of takes a lot from other spears and just merges it into one, including lances as well. So this thing can be pretty good. Also, Pate's Spear, being a Twinkling Titanite weapon, has pretty high base damage. So before you even start upgrading this thing, he's gonna be doing some decent damage. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. So a weapon that surprised me quite a bit. I remember when I was looking at the spears before that this weapon surprised me then as well, but I completely forgot about it because I never tend to use this. That is the Gargoyle Bident. Mainly the thing that stands out about this weapon is that it has 140 counter damage, making it do some crazy damage compared to some of the other spears. It really only competes with York's spear, and that thing has 19 weight, but the Gargoyle Bident is a strength weapon, which is uncommon. Most of the spears are dex or quality, and it does weigh 12 units. It has 60 durability, but it does do some crazy damage, this thing. The attacks are primarily all thrust, meaning you can pair it with the Leo ring, and being a boss weapon, it upgrades with petrified dragon bones. This thing can be quite dangerous if you don't expect it, because it does have the attack speed of one of the normal spears, but it does do significantly more damage, and it's a physical weapon as well. It can be pretty good when a weapon only scales with strength. This thing takes 15 dexterity to use with no dex scaling, so you could two-hand it at 11 strength because it takes 22 strength to wield and be doing some serious damage. So yeah, the Gargoyle Bidon is a very good weapon. So the next one is York's Spear. I just want to say that the last 3 weapons can be interchangeable depending on what you want to use them for. Obviously, the Gargoyle Bidon is a strength spear. Pate Spear is a more traditional dexterity spear that is pretty versatile. And York's Spear, right here, is a DLC weapon. It has incredibly high damage because it also weighs 19 units. And kind of like Santyr's Spear, this thing goes completely off the charts when it comes to the moveset. You get it from Sin, the Slumbering Dragon, and it upgrades with Petrified Dragon Bones. This thing also has 140 counter damage, pretty high durability at 90. However, even though it has a little bit of a slower moveset than some of the other spears, it still only has 20 poise break. Now this weapon is very versatile nevertheless. It gets movesets from lances as well as twin blades, and it can overall be pretty fun. The cool thing about it is that it does only physical damage, which means that you don't really have to worry about any split damage or anything like that. You can infuse it if you want. It gets a B scaling in strength and in dex. It takes 30 strength and 25 dex to use, which is relatively high, but that's common for the DLC weapons. And it can also be buffed with the resin, which is fantastic. So yeah, this is a pretty versatile weapon. I was kind of expecting you not to be able to infuse it and buff it, but it's good that they allow you to do that. You can pretty much do anything you want with this thing in terms of infusion and buffs, like to fit your build. I forgot to mention it also has spin to win from a halberd. This can make it pretty decent for crowd control. You can also use York's Spear behind your shield as well, which is pretty neat. So yeah, this thing pretty much has nothing you're gonna miss if you're using this over a traditional spear. So that was it for the spears video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.